understanding people's personalities is and also their attachment styles and how they show up in the world is just as important in how you're trying to lead your business, is understanding your staff on a personal level and who they are.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and with me, excited to have Elle George. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Todd. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being on the show. Elle is an entrepreneur, author, business strategist who has built multiple seven-figure companies while living abroad, currently living abroad, and raising a family. But her career has not been without some setbacks. So we'll dive into that too, is just about losing really everything and a devastating experience that inspired her to write a book, Before You Shake Hands, and we'll talk about that too. So with that said, why don't you give our listeners a bit more about your background? We'll dive in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Todd. Well, as you said, my name is Elle George, and I do live remotely on an island in Indonesia. But I am a CEO, a founder, a leadership strategist, business strategist now. And early on in my career, I had, as you said, a shaky start. I've had a few of those where I've had a hostile takeover, things that really were fundamentally, I guess, catastrophic but pivotal changes in my career, and now lead several very successful multi-million-dollar businesses remotely. So there's been many lessons learned along the way, and many of which I share in the book, so that others can avoid the same mistakes, I guess.
Yeah, well, I want to dive into some of those mistakes, but first I want to just talk about living abroad and be able to build you've built quite a few nice size businesses. And
Yes.
most people have a tough time doing that just in their own hometown, right? You've been able to successfully do that remotely. Let's talk through kind of some of the key things that you think have led to your success while doing that and being able to travel and being able to experience stuff that most people don't get to experience.
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of it comes from the main lessons I learned on being able to not only live in a different country that we're used to. It's not sort of the Western world as such. There's some really big things and some very hard lessons that you need to learn when you do that. And that is, you can't get funding. You can't get a loan to start a business. So
Oh yeah.
you really have to back yourself. You can't just go to the bank one day and say, oh, hey, I can't make salaries. Can I have an overdraft? So there's a real, I guess, a leap of faith that you need to take and back yourself in business. Is this really what I want to be doing? And I think my biggest lessons in how I lead my life and how they've been successful is I just lead very heart-led businesses. So they have to feel good. And I think the key there is the last thing I think about, which sounds counterintuitive, is money. So when I was younger, you think, oh, I have to do this and I have to make this much and reverse engineer everything in my brain before I get out of bed, which becomes very confusing and also blurs your vision. It certainly blurred mine on things like alignment checks and maybe compromising what you want to be doing with your life. So we end up with a 9 to 5, or we end up just going in something that's easy as opposed to following some sort of passion or really how we want to live our lives. And I think for me, I was able to write a list, take those lessons I'd learned early on and write a list on exactly how I wanted to spend every day. And what that would look like to me. And that would include travel. It would include being near the ocean. It would be including, lots of laughter, spending time with people that I care about and having great sort of deep heart-led conversations, and how I wanted that to roll out every day, and what time to read, time to learn, time to spend with people that I enjoy their company. And so creating a life of what that looked like. And I think we get so caught up in the day to day of we've got to pay bills, we've got mortgage payments, we've got
Yeah.
this and that. If we can really reverse engineer how we want our day to look and then start from there, I think that's been my biggest win for my life, not my career, but my life as a person and satisfaction on the planet, I guess. And then everything's just rolled on from there. The decisions on making decisions on new businesses has kind of been easy. I just come up with it, there'll be something missing in the market. And then I'm like, oh, you know what, that'll be great. So I sort of pivot down that road, which is why I've got a few very different businesses in different industries as well, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. And I love doing it.
Yeah. That's really cool. I think I love the idea of writing a list of how you want to live each day because it's so easy to build a business or work in a W-2 either way, but it's so easy to,
Hmm.
like you said, just be focused on the dollars and cents, be focused on building the business where you lose kind of track of what the dream was in the beginning. Why you're
Hmm.
look, we work to make money, to survive, to make an impact, those types of things, which are great. I think everybody needs to work. I think that leads to purpose in your life and impact and so on. But also, how are you actually living? Are you working to just grind and make money and
Hmm.
then not really experience life, or are you experiencing life and having your work as part of that impact? So I love how you kind of led to that. That's something I need to do probably is write that list. Like, how do we want to live every single day? So easy to get caught up.
Yeah, and I think you just made a really interesting point then when you said a couple of really key words, and one was purpose, and one was, I guess, making a decision. What is actually important? Is it the money? Do you
Mhm.
get out of bed? What do you get out of bed for every day? Is it the money, the bank balance, watching that go up? Is that your level of success? Or is your level of success, or your definition of success, spending more time with your kids, or spending more time with your friends, or doing things that bring you joy? And yes, I understand people need to pay mortgages and have bills, and everybody has commitments, but how you spend your time doing that is so key to
Yeah.
living your true purpose and not just existing, but really living. And we don't get a second shot. This is it,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You don't get a
you
do-over.
know? You don't get a do-over. And I think that's the thing that's been my biggest lesson is, you just so much hustle. And I was going at such a pace that was, affecting my health and every other area of my life, just trying to claw back what I'd lost,
Hmm.
that I really just took a breath and took a moment. And then all of a sudden, everything just aligned. I think that's the key word too, is alignment.
You said you have multiple businesses and some of them
Hmm.
aren't even like that related, different industries. Talk me through that because that can be difficult to juggle multiple businesses, first of all, but when they're not in the same verticals, that's even more difficult, I think, at least in my thought process going through that. It's like, whoa, that would be
Hmm.
hard to have a business that is here and have a business that's over here that aren't really in the same vertical. So how do you manage being successful in multiple businesses within multiple verticals?
I guess leveling up your skill set is the key in that area. I think when coming from traditional sales background, as I had when I was younger, on being able to pivot of then turning into, when you're in your own business, you become the accountant, you become HR, you become all of these things. And I think rather than sitting back, it's not about micromanaging staff. It's about, rather than sitting back and just letting everybody else do the work, is knowing every facet of your business. And once you can do that and you know the key pivotal positions in a company, you can really pick it up and put it in any other vertical, if you like. So that's been the easy progression to be able to do that, because I know all of the different jobs that are required
Mm.
within any company, well, not any company, but, the companies that I'm
Yep.
involved in, whether it's marketing or whether it's, like I said, HR, and whatever those positions are, knowing how to read your numbers in your business. They're very important things that you can just pick up and shift from one thing to the next. So when I say my businesses are indifferent, I'm in property, I'm in hospitality, I'm in manufacturing, apparel manufacturing. So they are very, very different, but also very the same in a sense of what my role is in those companies, and what I do and why I do them. And so that doesn't change within each company. But, again, it's just alignment.
I think that's a great point, though, is that look, you are the CEO of these companies, and your
Mhm,
role is very similar within each company, even though that one might be in apparel manufacturing, the other one is in
mhm.
property management. Those are two different things, but yet your role is very similar. You're managing people as this very similar way. The business is still running, so you are essentially you're still doing what you're excellent at in each of those companies. And I think that's the key right there is when people talk about not getting distracted, and
Mhm.
you're not getting distracted because you're doing the same very similar tasks. It's certainly different, but very similar tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think knowing your skill set, or like I said, leveling up, but knowing your skill set and what you're good at
Yeah.
is so pivotal in any company. And I think we try and spread ourselves thin sometimes, and again, micromanage other people's jobs. What's the old saying? Don't ever be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And so spend time on your people, spend time
Yeah.
getting to know what their strengths are and building that out, and then get to know your customer. And then when you can join the two, they're the two most important things I think we do in business, is getting to know our people within our business and what makes them tick. And I think that's really important on what drives your people. Because quite often, as a CEO, we come in and we think, well, this is my business and it's what I want.
Mm.
But to be able to inspire people to get on the gravy train with you and becoming and building your dream, the gratitude I have for my staff, that there's people that are investing in me and backing me and coming on this ride and saying, hey, we're going to hop on and enjoy this ride with you to build your dream. That's pretty cool. So you want to make sure that you're looking after what their needs are along the way and investing in their growth, in their skill sets as both people and from a skills based perspective, but also about what the purpose is of the company. And I think people get more behind a purpose when they can see that you've got a destination, and you're just not hopping on, we don't get on a train in the morning and hope that it's going in the right direction. We need to know where we're at, where our destination is. And that might change over time, and we can hop on a different train and, all of these things. But you need to be really clear with your team on what you want. And I think that's a key thing on how we lead our staff and our businesses, and why people stay. Building an environment where you have a very low turnover, and creating an environment
Mm.
where people can be inspired, and also, achieving their dreams along the way, so that they stay. Why did, and I have a very low turnover in my business, and that's my focus is, we build more of a family environment where people feel inclusive, and it's a place where they want to come and they want to work and they want to feel inspired to be around each other. And some of the celebrations and the family celebrations we have are amazing. I mean, I've been through babies and marriages, and not just my own, but other people, but other, being involved in people's lives, and knowing when someone's kid is playing in a soccer tournament, or knowing when someone's child's, graduating university. They're really important, pivotal things in other people's lives. And I think when we can put service before self, and not just be worried about what's going on in our world every day, I think that's the key game changer in any business. And it's certainly been in mine.
Mm. That's very valuable. Creating that environment where people want to stay, creating that family, creating that connection with people. How valuable is that when you can be a part of kind of what's going on in their life. Talk about the trust that you can build when you can talk to them and congratulate them on their marriage, congratulate them on having a baby, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And it's not just about work every single day. These are real human beings. They have real
Yeah.
lives outside of the work they do. And if you can create that extra connection, I think that, yeah, I can see that being super valuable. Beyond that connection that you build, are there other big key things that you feel have been crucial to you being able to keep long-term employees? Because that's huge. I mean, I run a business, and turnover is expensive. Turnover is a
Mhm.
pain, and nobody wants to. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Maybe some people like firing people, but I hate firing people, and I'm sure you do too.
Mhm.
It's emotional for everybody. Nobody wants to make somebody lose their job. And so, how do you keep those people to where they're long-term employees, they can grow with the company? You've mentioned a couple things. Anything else?
I think just caring, and that just seems like such a simple thought process. Being able to show up for people. If you take out fundamentally, if you take out the fact that we're going to work together, you need to be able to draw the line between friendship and business.
Yeah.
And I can come into work and how was everyone's weekend? And that's great. But then there's this switch that goes. And when we're at work, yes, we all love and care about each other and we care about the kids and these things and all those things that are happening. But there needs to be that line that they know that there's a respect level that's there, that you know they can trust you in that environment. They know that you do care, and that's by showing up and not just asking frivolous questions, but really showing up for people, but them being able to switch over, and they know that you can be the master of both,
Yeah.
and that it's not just you excuse my French, but you know your shit,
Yeah.
and that then people are willing to say, okay, now we're in business environment. So they're willing to play on both sides of the fence with you, if you like, knowing that you've got their back in both areas. And I think that's very key. And I recently did some business coaching with a friend of mine who was giving absolutely everything to this business. And at some point, there became the point where they just said, I just don't feel like my boss has got my back.
Mm,
And I think that's very key to
mm,
understand that it's not just about lip service that we give our staff. You've got to show up, you've got to be there in the trenches with people and
yeah.
show people either how to do their job or give them the skills to do it, but also then be able to pivot and really invest and not just seem like you care or pretend that you care. You've got to be
Yeah.
authentically
Yeah.
invested in your business. And that is the key in anything. You can't just be, okay, well, how was your weekend? Okay, great. But anyway, more about me.
Yeah.
It can't be that. It's got to be authentic. And if you can't do that, then learn how to do it. It's a skill.
Yeah.
And it's like anything. When we learn another skill, you have to be able to learn to be authentic. And to do that, you have to go from within. And, that's a whole nother conversation where you move to an island and go and find yourself.
And some of us can't do that, but I think everybody can learn how to communicate with people better.
Absolutely. And there's so many things out there for people to find that skill set online through
Yeah.
podcasts, all those sorts of things. If you can't be on an island, there's plenty of things out there where people can level up in many areas.
And I think, and tell me if you believe something different, but for me, it's everybody's got a different skill set. Everybody's got different
Hmm.
things that they're good at. So you have to understand leading people. It may be best to lead people one way for one person and a
Hmm.
slightly different way or different way completely maybe for another person. So you personally may lead a lot more emotionally. You may be able to lead just some people are really good at remembering things. Like I lead slightly different than that, but you have to find what works really well for you and for your team. But I love and I totally agree with you, creating that authentic connection with your all your staff is really, really
Hmm.
valuable. And quite frankly, not only creating that with your staff, but allowing that to be part of the environment. So all your employees are creating that connection within the company, not just with you, but with other people within the company. And that's so valuable to be able to open kind of that tree up for everybody to be able to say, okay, we can create real relationships within this company and still
Yeah,
be serious
absolutely.
about
And we all
work.
learn differently. 100%, but we all learn differently. We all
Mm,
have come
yeah.
from lives with different traumas. We grew up in different households. We have different, history in our skill sets, in how our environments have been. So how we communicate with different people, and this is where psychometric testing comes in, and also understanding that we are all human. And different, some people come from a happy marriage, some people are going through divorce. All of these things affect how we show up every day in our work environment and with our colleagues. And I think that's really important too. You can't just, it's like you don't parent all your children the same way.
Yeah.
You've got one that's the sensitive one, and
Yeah.
then you've got one that's the go-getter, and one that's the thing. So how you show up as a parent is very different. And I remember there was a podcast I listened to recently, and I think it was with Dr. Gabor Mate, where he said, no child grows up in the same household or has the same parents.
Ha.
And that was
That's
a
crazy. But
huge
yeah.
aha moment for me because, for some parents, you might have been very wealthy and had a successful business when you had one of your children, and then you went through a catastrophic business breakup, and then you had nothing and had to rebuild. So that child had to go through, those things. Or maybe you were going through divorce when you had one and not the other, or whatever might have been going on. There might have been a death. So how we show up and how we parent our children is exactly the way we need to show up in business,
Yeah.
knowing that each one is the go-getter, and you can have more fun with that one, but the other ones are sensitive. So you have to tone it down and make sure that you speak really clear and in a soft, and the way that you deliver can't be so aggressive as what you would do with your salespeople, for example,
Yeah.
because they're just going to go into meltdown and feel less than, like they can't step up to the plate and they can't deliver what you need from them. So you really have to, this whole
That's a
CEO
great
thing
point.
and leading a business it's a juggling act. Understanding people's personalities is and also their attachment styles and how they show up in the world is just as important in how you're trying to lead your business, is understanding your staff on a personal level and who they are.
Yeah, those are great points to make because I'm thinking of just myself. If somebody's trying to lead me and they're being they're like emotional with me, and they're trying to be a leader, like I'm just not going to gravitate towards that because I'm just not that type of person. Like you have to be
Mm-hmm.
very to the point with me, direct, tell me exactly what to do, be tough with me. Like I'm gonna totally answer to that. But if you're touchy feely with me and different, like I'm not going to. But at the same time, there's other people that I know that are our employees that you can't talk tough with them. You can't talk direct with them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Yeah.
make sure you're soft with them and you're getting to a little bit of that emotional side, and they're going to really respond well to something like that and asking them questions. And like, it's just like you said, it's so different with every single person. And that's interesting that you brought up the kids thing. 'Cause I didn't even think about it, but yeah, I'm looking at my own kids. Like they're totally different people. Like,
Right. And
so
it's crazy. I mean, I'm the same. I've got one that's this sensitive, emotional one, and I've got one that's really sporty and a go-getter. And if I sit down and have an emotional conversation with him, he literally glazes
yeah,
over.
just like,
It's like, Mum, what's for dinner?
yeah,
Like it's just
yeah,
the lights are on and no one's home.
that's
So
funny.
I think that we have to realize that that's the same with how they grow up as adults and how they enter the workforce, and how we lead in that way. That is the best skill set that we can learn in any business, is people.
All right, we're gonna flip gears a little bit, Alice. So you had some tough times in business, and in that book,
Yeah.
your book, and it's out right now, right? Is your
It's on pre-order right
oh,
now, and it's
pre-order?
coming out. Yeah, it's on pre-order right now. So the book Before You Shake Hands, it's not really I mean, it's not a personal reckoning. It's an ultimate playbook, I guess, of for founders, CEOs, investors, partners. It's the critical questions that you should be asking before you sign on the dotted line with anybody.
Yeah,
And I think it was key. And the reason I wrote it is I went through an incredibly hard period in a business partnership that was not aligned. It was within a very short space of time, there was hostile takeovers, there was Phoenix companies being set up, misappropriation of funds, IP being moved, all of these things. And at that age, I was a lot younger than I am now. I didn't see it coming. I didn't even think that that's how people thought.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't looking for those red flags because I didn't even at that point think that some of those things could have happened. So when they happened, it was the biggest rug pull of the century. It's actually the best thing that ever happened to me. But
sure,
there was millions
in
spent on
hindsight, not
legal.
during that time.
Hindsight is 2020,
Yeah.
right? But foresight is where the key is.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized. If I had have had then the questions that I could have asked someone, and again, I go back to the personal, emotional side of it. It's kind of like dating, right? We go out on a date. We're not going to go after one or two dates and get so excited about, talking about sharing a bank account, getting a house with someone and doing all these things. Yet in a business, for some reason, we decide to align ourselves with people very quickly. So we say, okay, we want a business partner. And then we get excited because somebody comes along and validates our idea.
Yeah.
And you need an investor, and somebody comes along with the money that you need, validates your idea, and like, okay, we're on.
Let's
this
go.
is great. It's a bit like, yeah, right? Whereas we should be asking critical questions on, why do you want to invest in my business? First question, what are your goals? What is your role going to be in this company? And what would that look like? How do we face times when things get difficult? What if one of us goes through our own legal battle? What if one of us, do you have any financial trouble in your history? Have you been through any legal problems yourself? And if so, how did you come back from that? I don't care about all the nitty-gritty of your legal matters or what have you. And honestly, most good business people have been through legal drama at some point. There's either been, I can't tell you the amount of people that say to me when I talk about the book or it's mentioned, and they go, oh, I wish I had this book, either themselves or they know someone that's going through it now. Yeah. And courtrooms are full from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. in every city and every country in the world with people fighting about money.
Yeah.
And the amount of failure in business partnerships, wouldn't it make sense that we check if we're aligned first, like you would do in a personal marriage or a romantic relationship? We talk about, do we want kids? Where do we want to live? How do we want to live? Do we want to travel? How do we want to bring up our kids? What sort of religion? All of these things that we would ask somebody before we jump into a marriage, well, hopefully ask people before we go that far into a marriage. But for some reason, we don't do it in business. So before you shake hands is very much an alignment guide of probably all the questions that I woulda, coulda, shoulda asked right back at those early stages, and have since asked in other businesses that I've walked away from, and I no longer do partnerships unless it's completely aligned. Yeah. In many areas, even communication styles has to be so important. Who's going to be forward facing in the business? What if we grow to a point where we need to get more investment? What does that look like? Are we putting in personal funds? Are they investment funds? What the structure looks like? What if at the very early stage, when I say to you, why do you want to invest in my business? I might want a legacy play. I might want to develop a B Corp, and you want to park tax dollars for the next 12 months, and then you're out. It might be a tax strategy. It might be a divorce strategy. It might be whatever it is, that you've got a 5-year plan for your thing, but I've got a legacy play.
Yeah.
I'm social causes are important to me. Clearly, we're not aligned from the get-go.
Right.
Run, don't walk. It doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't have to be any of those things. Being able to sit down with somebody and saying, hey, Todd, I'm really excited that you're excited to invest in my business. Before we do that, I'd really love to do an alignment check together. Are you up for that? The questions should be straight out yes, or the answer should be straight out yes from the prospective partner. And if that person can't give you that answer and kind of says, oh, we don't need all of that, again, red flag,
there's a red
abort
flag.
mission straight away.
Yeah.
People should want to get to know you and
Yeah.
want to understand what makes you tick and who's going to be involved with their money and vice versa. How you're going to show up. What does your day look like? All of these really key questions. So there's over 150 questions, more than that actually, in the book, in really key pivotal areas, from values and trust, on why it's important. Numerous questions that are asked on why it's important to ask them. Roles and responsibilities, legals, financials, exit strategies, and then the key takeaways in the book as well are really important on how we show up, you know, not only before you go into business, but there's also situations where people might be in business right now where they say, okay, well, that's all great before you shake hands. But what if we've already taken the plunge and we're already in business together and it's turned toxic? What do we do? How do we navigate out of that so that things don't go legal and don't get messy and cost millions in either court costs, losing your house, losing your family, all the things that really matter to us? How do we avoid that? And that's through really clear communication, ideally from the get-go.
So ideally from the get-go,
Mm-hmm.
it's the clear communication, which I absolutely love, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like you're if you're creating a business partnership, the goal is likely to stay together in business, build a
Correct.
company. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like you're like, hey, let's do this business partnership and we're only going to be in business for 6 months. I mean, the very rare some opportunities maybe for that, but most of it's like we're doing this business together.
We don't get in it to fail.
Yeah, we're not getting into to fail, and we're not getting in it to go through lawsuits, and like that's not why you're getting into it. And
Mm-hmm.
but yet, like you said, like marriage, same thing. Yet most people, maybe not all, but most people don't have a shotgun wedding, right? They're not
Right.
they don't date for one day and all of a sudden decide to get married. They go on lots of dates for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and then they say, okay, let's get married. But in business, it doesn't happen that way,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Um, if you've already been in business, though, you got in business, is there a way now to go, okay, mm, and maybe things are going well, but somebody's listening to this and going, man, I did get in business pretty quickly with somebody. Geez, what if something did go wrong? How can I protect myself? Like, is there a way after you've gotten business and after you've been doing this for a year or two, or even just a couple months, like, how do you then
Yeah,
protect
for sure.
yourselves?
Yeah, and I think there's two parts to that question. And the first part is the alignment on this. There's the personal side, and then there's the actual strategies in place. So the strategies in place are clearly communication. So just like you do in a marriage, when things start to go south, you're either going to sit and you're not just going to say, okay, or some people do, but like you said, a shotgun wedding, it's not just the divorce papers come. You want to work things out. You sit down and talk your way through it and things like that. So I think regular check-ins in business with your business partners is critical.
Hmm.
Are we on the same train? Are we
Yeah.
going in the same direction?
Yeah.
Is everybody aligned in what their roles are, or are we, if they're not, involved on what the reporting structure is? And I think that's really key. If things are starting to go haywire and they're getting off track, I think that's really important to stop, sit and have a check-in and work through, okay, what are the key issues that we're now facing in the business? Generally it's communication, and how do we solve that
Mm.
before this thing goes boom? Because nobody
Yeah.
wants to lose their money. The investor doesn't want to lose their money, and you don't want to lose your business. You built it. It was excited. We're excited when people came in. Most businesses end. Most partnerships end. It's
Yep.
very rare that you have long, 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 long-term partnerships.
Yep.
How they end is up to how you behave, all parties in that thing. And I think the same as what we do in a marriage, you have to show up and it can't just be about somebody else. We all play a part in how things fail.
Yeah.
Despite
Yes.
the fact in my situation that went so south so quickly, I still accept responsibility for my communication during that time
Mm.
and putting my head in the sand and panicking and being very emotionally immature and very young at the time, of if I had the skill set that I have now of communication and understanding those things and how to operate in a business and run a business properly, I could then have hindsight gone back and navigated the way that I handled things a bit better through communication as well. And I think understanding and accepting that we all play a part in how we show up in the business, and it's not just somebody else's fault. It was that person that did that. They did it. I can't believe they did that to me. We all play a part.
Yep.
Right. Things don't just go boom.
Right.
So accepting that responsibility and how you show up in that relationship, in that business relationship, is key as well. There's always two sides to a story, and the truth always lies somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, I mean, Elle, you wouldn't have been able to grow and actually learn something from what happened to you had you not taken responsibility and said, I did play a part of this. Maybe bad things happened, or certainly bad things happened, right? Certainly the other party took advantage of you. Certainly the other party treated you poorly, but you had a role in it somehow, some way, and you have to go dig, like, what could I have done differently?
Yeah.
How could we have, which you wrote a whole book about it, right? How could I have not gotten in this relationship in the first place, protected myself in the second place, but then what did I actually, how was my role within that business, and how did I play a part in the destruction that happened within that business? I think that's so important to take personal responsibility, whether it's in your business or your personal life. You need to take personal responsibility. If you can't take it, you're never going to learn the lessons that you learned to be able to write the book that you wrote.
Exactly. And I think that was very cathartic. I think going through that process on each of those sections and then writing out the questions on that you should be asking.
Yeah.
And then going back, and under each question, it has a section that's why that's important. It was so cathartic for me moving forward of how I show up in relationships and with friends and in business, of accepting the part that I play, on how I communicate, on how I process things, on, just how you show up in the day to day. And I think that's such a key point that you made. Or it's, we have to accept that responsibility and grow. Otherwise we're just, sitting back and doing the same. What's that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right?
Yeah, and playing the woe is me card, like, I get it. Like, bad things do happen, and I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. But the victim is just, it's getting old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How much did writing this book help you? Like, I'm sure you did a lot of processing already before the book, but writing this book and going through everything, like, how much more did it help you, like, realize what happened, your role in it, and then the lessons that you took out of it? Was it just like, how was that process? Was it really eye-opening? Did it help you? Has it helped you kind of grow your business, do you think? Just going through that process?
It did. It did. And it helped me definitely with my communication style.
Yeah.
I can be very straight to the point and very, blunt. Like a minute ago, you said, I only like communication. You need to be tough with me.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas I would communicate with people in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And so going through this such a long process, and it was nearly a 2-decade long court case, which was insane. You find yourself trauma bound to something like that. It infiltrates every area of your life, and being able to, compartmentalize different areas to still show up for other people, and also not be jaded against other people, and then not questioning and assuming that other people are going to be the same as the people that you've been through the trauma with. Trusting again was probably my hardest thing that I did, was to trust people again, that I was going to hand over either a task, and that was showing up in so many other areas of my life. And it's quite easy, as we said, to sit back and play the victim and say, woe is me, which gets you nowhere personally or in business, and you have to have that growth. So, there was key things that I had to learn about myself, both through the trauma that I went through and also parts that I played in my communication style. Understanding now, I look back on the people who were the partners, and I think, wow, maybe I could have communicated with them in a different way, and maybe I could have, leaned in a different way to carry them through something they might have been going through at the time, because we all show up at different times in our life in a different way. And I think they're the lessons that I've learned now that have helped me in my business, understanding all my stuff. It's now helped me in the success of my businesses to become heart-led and not money-driven. And that was something, I think, when we're younger, we feel like we've got something to prove in the world, that, if our business is not worth this much, then it's not going to be successful. And again, being more aligned with your own values on who you are. And as that comes with maturity and age and lessons and, earning your stripes, I guess. I think that's really key, is being able to give those skill set and then now pass them on to people in my team on how they can maybe communicate in different ways, and teaching them those lessons. That's been the biggest gift. And I only have gratitude. I don't look back with bitterness or, hate or revenge and, any of those emotions. It's like drinking out of a poisonous cup, I think they say, and expecting the other person to die. It's, you can carry that with you, or you can heal from it, do the work, get over the trauma, fair bump, play on, like we talk about in sport. And, it's just a flesh wound, and get back out there and live to fight another day. And don't play the victim card. There's too many tools out there now from too many people way smarter than I am to give you everything that you need to be just an awesome human in every area of your life in this day and age. And I think a lot of people settle in that. And also sometimes when we have friends that are wallowing in that woe is me, use the strength in your personality to be able to pick them up from their bootstraps and say, hey, come on for the ride. Even if you need to stop sometimes and, you see people trip in a marathon and people run past, and because they've got their time that they're focused on. And then you see the person that stops and runs past and then say, oh, hang on, that guy's struggling, and stops and picks them up. And, whilst the other guy goes home with his 3-hour marathon time or sub whatever it is, the lesson inside that we carry with us is I'm for that. That they're the feel good things that make you put your head on the pillow every night and have a great night's sleep, is sharing the ride with people.
That person that stopped and went back and helped that person. They didn't, after that race, they didn't go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Man, I didn't get my time. Like I shouldn't have done that. I guarantee you, that's what they're talking about. That's what they're happy about. That's what they think about at night, is that I helped that person out. Like it just, it makes them feel so good. And they're not saying, oh man, I kicked myself. I just really wish I didn't help that person out. Nobody,
and shouldn't life be about those moments where we feel so good? Like I saw something online recently. There's a marathon, and this guy's, I don't know which marathon, it might have been Boston or something. This guy was running this marathon, and as he ran past this point, the big marching band was playing the drums and the playing the thing and the music, and everyone's running past, and he just kind of stopped halfway. And I don't know if it was a setup or not, but he just started dancing to the music for a little minute, and it probably cost him 30 seconds. But it's just like, they're the moments. We only get moments. And I know it sounds all woo-woo and whatever, but all I know is when I changed the way I thought and how I led and how I treated myself and how I showed up for myself, everything in my business has changed. Everything. That my life changed, people that showed up in my life, the success in my businesses. When I took the time to be selfish and work on myself, it lifted everything around me.
That's something.
A high tide rises all ships, right?
Yeah. I think it's it's interesting you talk just about focusing on the money and when you're younger, which I think everybody kind of goes through in business. I know I do.
They do.
I think you did, obviously, and I think most people do. But I think social media and podcasts, even as much as I love them, and they're great, and I think they've been a huge boost to allowing people to get to
Mhm.
where they want and really see what's possible. But at the same time, sometimes it you get wrapped up into other people's, dreams or other people's what they're talking about on social media, and because they're driving so much of that. You got to make the money. You got to build a big business. You got to do this, and that's what you fall for. You don't see the hard things that they did. I just spoke it to a group the other day, and what a guy's like, "Hey, it's amazing. Just how do you get there? Like, I want to do what you did, and you've done so much so quickly." And I'm like, "Wait a second.
Yeah.
You heard me talking for 45 minutes. I didn't build this in 45 minutes. Like this
They got
took
the
me,
highlights.
yeah, this took me 18 years to build,
Yeah.
and it's not perfect still to this day. So
Hmm.
don't look at what I did and think you got to get there tomorrow. Like that's just not
Yeah.
how it goes. But that's what we see when we listen to a podcast or hear, see people on social media, especially social media where it's literally like a 30-second clip or something like that. And you're like, oh, whoa, that was like overnight success. That's not what happened. So, um,
Yeah, and I think that's key of how we show up. And like you said, it's like someone in that time you get this highlight reel, and especially for kids now, they're looking at all this stuff, and young adults and even adults now, it's hard not to go down the rabbit hole sometimes and feel like you have to seek validation from other people. And that's where it's key to turn to within and either put it aside if you feel that it's being toxic or that it's any of those things. So just walk away.
yeah.
I mean, my level of success now in life is I will know that I have made it when I don't need a mobile phone. That to me is my goal in life, is to get to the point in my life where I do not need a mobile phone. When I get there, I'm like, yes, that would be
Yeah.
my Bobby
That's
Axelrod's
that
takeover
that's
of
a
the
dream
world,
come true.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you there. All right. Well, we got to wrap up here. So, where do people find your book before you shake hands?
The website is beforeyoushakehands.com, and they can go on there to pre-order. And my Instagram, and I love talking to founders, and I love talking and having conversations with people, whether it's business and life and what have you. So people can reach to, it's the.L.E.L.L.E.George on Instagram.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I got two more questions and then we're done. So, one last,
Mhm.
or the one is give me a favorite book.
I've got a novel that I've just read, actually. It's not a business book, but I learned a lot of lessons in that. And it's called The Women by Kristin Hanna. And it was about the nurses who went off to war to support
Hmm,
the army in the Vietnam War for America. And it's such an incredible story and inspired by a true story, and probably one of the best books I've ever read. So many other lessons in life in that book. It was incredible.
that's cool. I've never heard that one. Love to add new books to the kind of
It's
the
called The
library of
Women. It's
books.
incredible.
Cool. All right. Last question. What are your three pillars of wealth creation?
Integrity, you've got to have it in spades. And if
Yeah.
you can't have it, you need to learn how.
Yeah.
That, I think, is number one in everything. Being authentic is number two for me, showing up as yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't like yourself, then find out a way or the skills to learn to like yourself
Yeah.
is the next for yourself and other people. And I think is being aligned. They're all really key things that we do, aligned with our staff, aligned with our goals and our mission, and aligned with who we are as people and how we show up in the world. I
Yeah.
think is living true heart-led lives and businesses, and doing what you be. Someone, I said to my son recently, he's like, Mum, we had a career day at school and they're really pressuring on what you want to be. I'm like, there's a reason you can't drink until you're 21 and drive a car until you're 18. Right? You should not have to choose your career.
Yeah.
And I'm in my early 50s and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I love that. I still don't know that. And I love that. And I'm just going to keep
Yep.
walking this path and doing stuff that I love and I enjoy. And I think being aligned with being okay with that is super cool.
That is cool. And yeah, I mean, how many people go to college to be something and or start, right after high school to do something, and most people aren't doing the same thing as they're
Hmm.
doing when they're 18, 19, 20, even 30.
Exactly.
So,
Hmm.
oh, that's great. Great stuff. Elle, really appreciate you being on the show. So you gave us your website, to the book, to
Hmm.
Instagram. Any other ways that you want listeners to reach out to you?
Just through that, beforeyouShakeHands.com and the Elle George on Instagram, and love to catch up, and always there for advice or questions or a good old chat or a surf wave check or
Yeah.
anything like that. Awesome.
Well,
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. Say, I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.